was that the ordering, the sequencing of the critical information-bearing parts of DNA and protein were the result of self-ordering tendencies that were chemical in nature. We see some self-ordering processes all the time. If you drain a bathtub, you get a nice vortex. The force of gravity acting on the water, being forced through that little hole creates an orderly structure. Could DNA, or more importantly, could the information in DNA be explained in a similar way? Well, it turns out it can't. And the diagram I have on the screen actually illustrates that, and I would ask you to give your attention to the chemicals on the interior of the DNA molecule. They're the bases. They're the information-carrying constituents of the DNA molecule. And also give your attention to the little sticks, the thin sticks in this. This is a representation of the chemical structure of DNA. The little sticks represent chemical bonds, forces of attraction. Do you see that there's a chemical bond between the circles and the pentagons, the sugars and the phosphates? Now, that sugar-phosphate backbone does not itself contain any information. That's the medium upon which the information is stuck. Do you see that there's a bond between the letters and that sugar-phosphate backbone? Okay? That there is a chemical force of attraction that causes the letters in the message to be stuck to the backbone. But do you see that there are no forces of attraction between the A's, C's, G's, and T's? No little sticks? Okay? Not like a crystal of salt where you would represent that with a bond. Here there's no force of chemical attraction responsible for the sequential arrangement of the A's, C's, G's, and T's. There is a bond that explains why the letters stick to the backbone, but that bond will allow any one of the four letters, the A, the C, the G, or the T, to stick. Any one of the four chemicals, the information-carrying chemicals, to stick at any site along the way. Now, that's some pretty heavy chemistry, but let me make it real simple. Okay? I've got an illustration. Now, I'm pandering to the local audience here in eastern Washington and northern Idaho. I don't know if people from northern Idaho root for the Gonzaga Bulldogs basketball team, but everyone in Spokane that we've met this last week is mad about this basketball team, and they have a nickname called the Zags, okay? So if you're from Spokane, you might say, "Go Zags," all right? Now, this is a metallic chalkboard. These are letters with little magnets in it, and I obviously have a small amount of information here on the board, right? A section of functional information. Now, here's a question. Can we explain the arrangement of these letters that constitute this message as a result of the magnetic forces of attraction that are in play here? Obviously, the answer is no, right? The magnets explain why the letters stick to the backboard, but they don't explain the arrangement of the letters. And I can demonstrate that simply by rearranging the letters to get this new non-message ogza-ag, okay? That is not a functional sequence of characters, all right? Same forces of physical attraction, but now there's no information, okay? What does explain, and now what I'm doing is I'm drawing a physical analogy to what's going on in DNA. In DNA, there is also not a backboard, but a backbone. There is a medium upon which the message is inscribed. There is also an informational sequence, a message, if you will. And there is a force of attraction that explains why the nucleotide bases stick to the backbone, but that force of attraction does not explain the sequential arrangement of the characters in the genetic message. A lot of scientists wanted to explain the origin of the information as a result of self-ordering, self-organizing properties of physics and chemistry. But you can see by looking carefully at the DNA molecule that you can no more explain the information in it as a result of those forces of chemical attraction that cause the bases to stick to the backbone than you can by invoking magnetic forces of attraction to explain the origin of our little message here. Okay? In both cases, in the words of one famous chemist, he says the origin of the information is extraneous to the physics and chemistry. Where does the information come from in my illustration, by the way? It's obvious it's coming from, well, at least a quasi-intelligent designer. It came from me, right? Okay, from a mind, all right? So this is really, in a way, very suggestive. Now, as I began to look at, here's the famous chemist. His name is Michael Polanyi. He was a colleague of Einstein's and a brilliant man. In 1967-68, he wrote two articles, one called Life Transcending Physics and Chemistry, and another one in Science Magazine called Life's Irreducible Structure. And he made this point. He says, as the arrangement of the printed page is extraneous to the chemistry of the printed page. He's talking about like the ink in a headline. You've got chemistry that explains why the ink sticks to the paper, but that does not explain, he's going to say, how the ink gets arranged to convey information. As the arrangement of the printed page is extraneous to the chemistry of the printed page, so is the base sequence in a DNA molecule extraneous to the chemical forces at work in the molecule. You can't explain the information as a result of the physics and the chemistry.